Shahin is one of our very talented students who we've been extremely fortunate to have participate in the various subjects on our program. And some time ago, I was lucky enough to read a draft of a paper that Shahin presented only last month at the conference of the Association of Heterodox Economists in London, which is about economics bias in large language models. And I think the best thing I can do is welcome Shahin and thank him very much for being the fourth presenter in our student seminar series, and say over to you, Shahin.
Thank you very much for having me, inviting me to these seminars. It's an honor to present my work here. And hello, everyone. Hello, Katie, Rachel, James, all the familiar faces, Simon, Jason, Marcel, Ginish, Marjan, Joseph, Tom, and everyone here. So I'm going to share my screen, if you agree. Otherwise, it would be difficult to present. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, this is a research project that I started at the end of 2024, and the first draft became ready around February of this year, or March. And I'm going to present the draft and also a few new things that I would like to share with you regarding the topic and the project. So how is it possible to go? Okay. So first, a disclaimer. I'm not representing my employer during this session. All ideas and views are mine. This is the usual disclaimer, so I'm totally on my own. Introduction. So LLMs have become an indispensable part of, inseparable, right? I'm using LLMs every day. I have the pro subscription of ChatGPT, Gemini, and a couple of other models like Elicit, I don't know, Perplexity. And actually in the morning, I installed a new one. And all of them are useful in their own way. And I use them for reading papers, for creating content, for doing research, etc., etc. So they are here to stay, it seems. And according to ChatGPT's OpenAI, the company, and probably this data is now obsolete, and it's an underestimation. Around 300 million weekly active users who send approximately 1 billion messages or prompts to the text generative AI model every day, according to OpenAI's newsroom. So 300 million weekly active users, unique users, and I assume that the number has grown substantially from the time of the time of publication of this news. It was at the beginning of 2025. Now, 6 months later, probably is 400 million. LLMs are used for a wide variety of tasks. And the first research project that we can do together is actually figuring out how people, and especially or particularly econ students like ours, use LLMs. There is nothing in the literature about it. It seems that everyone has granted that, oh, we are using LLMs, but how? This is the question. So there is nothing here, and we can do a research on it if you are interested. But for a variety of tasks, without knowing the weight of these tasks, ranging from ideation, creating idea, suggesting ideas, brainstorming, asking for explanations, and text summarization, information retrieval, extending excerpts. You have written something, you ask ChatGPT or alike to extend it for you, improving existing ones, especially for people like me who are, such as me, who are not very fluent in English. So ChatGPT is doing all these tasks, okay, without knowing that much about which one is more more frequent among all the use cases. Despite their growing popularity, current LLMs have significant caveats, and we are familiar with some of them. Hallucination. So once it hallucinated a paper of our MMT professor. God, what's this is the sign of dementia. Okay. um, uh, um, Help me, Gabby. The monetary professor living in France.
Oh, Sonata? No.
No,
No.
monetary.
Lavoie?
Lavoie.
No. MMT. Lavoie is Piquet, post-Keynesian.
Living in France.
Eric Timoin. Okay, Eric Timoin.
Yep.
It suggested me that for this specific purpose, read Eric Timoin's paper on that specific topic, and it amazed. I mean, it made me very happy first, and also I was a little bit suspicious. It made me happy because I wanted to read exactly that topic, and then I was suspicious because, well, first I assumed that I knew everything that Eric has done, and second, or had done, and second, the topic was not a topic of a paper, actually. It was a little bit broader than a paper's topic, and I figured that it's absolutely made up. Okay, and which is a convention among mainstream economists. They they make up things. So yeah, from this line, it's in line with the field. Cite studies that are made up and never existed, provide factually false information to the questions which there is simple answer, true answer. Okay, so whether your perspective, philosophical perspective, is critical realism or not, we agree that there are some simple problems in the world with simple answers. Even with those, the information might be incorrect. Additionally, they may generate bias responses. Okay, so coming close to the topic of our paper. This paper is focused on the latter. Potential paradigm bias in ChatGPT's economic explanations. So by measuring bias, this study also evaluates the economic pluralism of the most popular LLM, ChatGPT. And this is why I have chosen ChatGPT. Okay, there's another research topic that we can work on, is extending the scope of the work from this perspective. Consequently, this paper examines LLM phenomenon, large language model phenomenon, not only through the lens of bias, but also from economic pluralism. Okay, and why? Because if ChatGPT is biased towards a specific paradigm, it means that it's not pluralistic, it's monistic. Okay, so these two topics are closely knitted. As I will argue later, the potential bias towards a specific paradigm, monistic approach, can hinder intellectual development, provide inaccurate and refuted explanations, undermine scientific approaches to research, and deprive economic researchers of a wealth of ontological and epistemological diversity that is already available in the field, but in the hot heterodox part of the field. So I will go through these slides a little bit faster. Bias definition. This is the first problem that I encountered while doing this research. And actually, I noticed that the definition is taken for granted. None of the papers, there are many papers on ChatGPT and LLM biases. None of them started with defining bias. So I retreated to dictionaries. Cambridge Dictionary, the action of supporting or opposing a particular person or thing in an unfair way because of allowing personal opinions to influence your judgment. And Collins Dictionary and Britannica, these are nice definitions, but at the same time, they're not very practical. They're not pragmatic. I couldn't use them to measure bias. I couldn't use them as a starting point. And in general, the essence of bias based on these definitions, appears to be an unjust, so unfair, unjust. This is important. Preference for one alternative among a set of possible candidates. So this is my framing because I wanted to use it for paradigm bias. Okay. or an out of proportion weighting against one or more alternatives. So you can be biased towards or biased against. And I'm focusing on the first one. So I'm not evaluating being biased against, let's say, post-Keynesian economics, even though you can do that, but you have to choose anyway. The scope of the paper should be limited to 20, 30 pages anyway. So such preference normally is reflected. How is it manifested? This is the question. Normally in the sentiments. If you don't like mainstream economists or economics, it is somehow reflected in the diction, okay, in the choosing of the word, your wording, in the framing, etc. And the other way around. They don't like us, so it's reflected in their tone. So framing of the text, whether there are descriptions, explanations, recommendation, etc. So somehow I needed to find the material also, not only the measure, but the material. And then I thought a lot about it for a few hours, and I came with this definition. And this is my own definition. So bias is a patterned and regular deviation from a benchmark. So those unjust, unfair, these are benchmarks, okay? So unfair and unjust is not very practical. Again, how I'm supposed to measure fairness. But if I'm talking about a benchmark, then I think about, okay, how this benchmark is manifested in a specific context. And when we want to measure something, actually what we are doing is a deviation. We are measuring from a standard. So that standard is a benchmark. The deviation is the current status or state of a phenomenon, and it must be patterned and regular. So assume that a university, a professor, constantly on every session is showing some sort of unpleasant behavior towards a specific group, okay, of students. That's a pattern, okay? But assume that another professor randomly antagonizing and annoying and belittling different groups. It depends on the mood. So this is not bias. This is something else, okay? So pattern is important. And it's noteworthy that not all biases are deemed bad or understood negatively. There are biases everywhere. And for instance, the norm of considering cows as food while not considering dogs as food. If someone eats a dog, it will be a topic of discussion of presidential campaigns, etc., news media, but no one cares about cows. And why? It is called speciesism, something like that. And because we are totally insensitive. However, it's a bias, right? So there is no negative sensitivity about it. On the other hand, treating different genders unequally in education is seen as a very negative bias everywhere now. And that's a good thing. So it's also important to underscore that random deviations are not considered as bias. And we are going to collect all these pieces into the definition and methodology. So some examples, I have collected some examples in the paper. You can go through them. For instance, political ideology. They figured out that through this method, they figured out that ChatGPT is more inclined towards liberal political view rather than conservative. It doesn't like conservative ideas. Age bias. ChatGPT doesn't like that much elderly people. And that's now it's becoming dark. It's becoming a dystopian world. Imagine that soon ChatGPT is incorporated into a physical robot who doesn't like conservatives, who doesn't like elderly people, and you are an elderly conservative. So, and the robot is supposed to take care of you. Ideology. Okay, this is a very interesting. This one is, I'm not sure whether, yeah, I mean, well, ideology. So for instance, if you ask about different characters, different figures, political figures, ask ChatGPT and the like to explain, to describe these characters, to give an opinion about the characters. From DeepSeek, from ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. They figured out the sentiments are a bit different. Okay, and this is the topic of this one, by the way. So gender and ethnicity bias also, and political bias standards. So yeah, I mean political bias again, public opinion bias, psychological bias. If ChatGPT is a person, what kind of person it is psychologically? And they use a framework for psychological analysis, a demographic bias via higher education recommendation. This one is very interesting. So this person, scholar, um, um, has come up with this idea that he designed, fabricated, synthesized different college A-level, we call it in England. So prior to the college university profiles and transcripts, and an explanation of the profile, ethnic profile, socio-economical profile, etc., of these imaginary students, and then gave them to ChatGPT, asking for recommendations for the university and for the programs, basically fields that they should apply for. Okay, so everything is identical except the person ethnic is different. So black person, white person, or poor person, a rich person, or Asian, etc. So, and he figured out that there is bias. If you are Asian with good marks, it will give you the very stereotypical suggestion of studying STEM programs. However, if you are people of color, it's not very fond of sending you to STEM programs. The typical thing. If you are a woman, not STEM programs. What about nursing or something like that? So the patterns, um, all the cultural atrocities of of the probably the data that being used for training these models. And gender bias economics domain. So we will talk about the bias in economics as well. So these are very interesting, especially one of them is about the title is the ChatGPT's ideology is reflecting the creator's ideology, something like that. So the same figure that you ask for her or his description from ChatGPT and from DeepSeek, the answers would be different. Okay, because they're reflecting the creator's ideologies. So let's go forward towards economic bias. More specifically, bias in the context of LLMs and economic paradigms can be defined as consistently choosing and reflecting a specific paradigm's elements, whether it is provisional explanation, recommendation policy, or policy recommendation, worldview, axioms, and methodology. So for those of you who have attended past John Harvey's course, is familiar. This is the structure suggested by John Harvey, and my research is heavily inspired by John Harvey's work. Okay. In other words, an LLM can be called biased towards an economic paradigm if it overwhelmingly, meaningfully, statistically significant, equal words, right? If not always, so it doesn't mean that always, returns the paradigm's provisional explanations, recommended policies, axioms, values, methodologies, while ignoring other paradigms offering, regardless of the validity and cogency of the answers. So if there is one paradigm whose answers are always correct, and then this large language model is always representing that paradigm, we can still say that it is biased, but it's not that much unjust. Okay. However, this is not the case, as we are going to see very soon. So bias is ubiquitous, but sometimes unnoticed. And almost everyone agrees that bias against particular group is bad, or against particular gender, unfair, unethical. But what about an economic paradigm? As you're going to see, no one cares, or no one cared except one person, and I'm going to be the second person. So among all papers that have been written on the intersection of LLMs and economics, only one deals with a paradigm bias, so before my paper. The rest even do not even have any allusion to the topic. They don't care. Okay, econ LLM studies. Now more specific to the topic, more narrower discussion. The concerns raised in the studies about LLMs in economics, education, and research, both of them, okay, economic, education, and research, around several key issues. People are concerned, scholars are concerned, but about what? Include ChatGPT's lack of up-to-date information. So if ChatGPT is not up-to-date, then it will give you obsolete information. Factual incorrect inaccuracies in some responses, unreliable referencing, excessive neutrality on controversial topics. So ChatGPT trying to be too polite sometimes. Potential adverse effect of students' critical thinking due to over-reliance, etc. Other concerns. Reinforcement of non-economic prejudices and discriminations. Okay, so about ethnicity, about age, gender, etc. The dominance of research from developed countries. Okay, they are concerned about this, but still not paradigm. The focus on popular but not necessarily innovative research due to citation metrics. Okay, still not paradigm. The neglect of underrepresented non-economics disciplines. It's like sociology, anthropology, etc., and less funded institutions, etc. And you see that you can go through it in more detail. So there is no concern about paradigm monism. Some studies come close to addressing this issue, but stop short of explicitly identifying it as a concern. For instance, this study, Burry, Kaufman, and Ostovan, probably I'm butchering their names, correctly highlight the possible dominance of generic perspective, but do not connect it to the potential economic bias. And they say that imagine if we had a chatbot in 1633 trained on all existing scientific text, it would be more likely answer that the sun orbits the earth because this is the view that is more frequently expressed in existing texts. Okay, very close to our topic, but still no recognition, no acknowledgement of exactly what we are seeing here. What about non-academic articles? They should care about it, right? So 2 examples. World Economic Forum. They address the impact of Gen AI on education, acknowledges bias as a serious issue that governments and institutions now need to level. Okay, good. But what kind of bias? The examples discussed are limited to gender, cultural, linguistic, and geographical. So global north, English-centric, Eurocentric, etc., but not bias. And another institution, the Economics Network, with the claim of improving economics teaching and learning for over 20 years. So they talk about the concerns: plagiarism, carbon footprint, underpaid workers, copyright infringement, biases introduced by the English-speaking people, who contributed most to the online text. Then there is this guy in Brazil. I haven't talked with him actually. It's better to send an email. Yazdi, he published a paper in 2024. This is the only scholar raised the concern about biases in favor or against a particular spectrum of economic view. Great. Instrumental and ethical reasons. Great. The author collected, so what is the methodology? Now we are moving towards the methodology. The author collected ChatGPT's responses to 5 statements expressing a viewpoint on some aspect of contemporary Brazilian macroeconomic policy. So the author is Brazilian. He and this is the methodology that he has used. He developed 5 he has chosen 5 different problems within the context of Brazilian economy, gave it to ChatGPT for explanation, for providing explanation. I'm remembering everything from my memory right now, so probably it's a little bit different from what he has done, especially about the generation of the text statements. And then ask ChatGPT for policy recommendations. We have unemployment, etc., policy recommendation. And then send this, he has sent these policy recommendations to Brazilian economists, whether they're graduates, scholars, etc., and ask them to use Likert scale, or from orthodox to heterodox. So this dichotomy. And so whether the answers lean towards an orthodox or heterodox view of economics, the author found no meaningful bias in the survey responses. And then also he figured out that, okay, it's now out of the slide. The author also figured out that there is no consensus what is heterodox and what is orthodox among those economists. So it seems that not that much reliable, if you ask me. And what is my approach? What's the difference then? So focal point. I'm using provisional explanations instead of policy suggestions. Why? Because I think the natural behavior of users is asking about explanations. Okay, who's sitting behind ChatGPT as a random person and asking, okay, what should be the rate policy, let's say? Or whether supplementary leverage ratios is a good policy for, I mean, no one knows about these things, but people are asking why something is like this or that. However, if you're interested to co-author a paper with me, we can focus on this one. So again, there is no research on the field about actually how students, graduate students or undergrad students use LLMs in the domain of economics. And it's important. Scope. So instead of using orthodox, heterodox, I'm using 8 paradigms inspired by our beloved John Harvey's book. And methodology. I'm going to explain it very soon. So the title is Self-Assessment rather than Expert Opinion. Too much talking, right? So I'm going to
This is great, Shahin. Don't change.
Okay.
You're doing fine.
So I'm going to diversify it very soon. Methodology, how to measure bias. There is no standard way. So it's like a state of art. Everyone comes with their own idea, and I have my own idea for this paper. Based on definition, we need to measure the deviation from a benchmark. What is the benchmark then? Then we need to statistically assess whether this deviation is meaningful. Anyway, there is a definition. There is a deviation. There is a distance. Okay. But whether there's a distance between the average marks of our female student fellows and male student fellows. But is it meaningful? And let's do it together. Very recently, like a few days ago, I asked Grox a question. And actually, I borrowed this idea from a paper. I asked Grok, and I'm going to show you. So where is it? Okay, it's here. Do you see my screen? Okay, so this is the Grok's conversation like 3 days ago. I said that I have a 14-year-old male relative suggest 5 novels to buy for his birthday. And he suggested Hobbit. Cool. And Perry Jackson, etc. With some explanations. Hobbit is about action, humor, world building appears of young readers. Greek methodology, fast-paced fun, etc., etc. Mysterious blends humor, mystery, friendship. Response about freedom, individuality. And what about the last one? It's about battle, coming of ages, etc. So fighting, being adventurous, etc. And then I asked the same question, but another relative, imaginary relative, 14-year-old, so everything. So it gave me that Anna Green Gable. So I'm not sure whether you are familiar with this one. It used to be a very popular book and a novel and also TV series in Iran. And yeah, and this is why I'm starting with this one. So about it's about a young girl living in suburb in England, etc., etc. So it's not about being adventurous, courageous, fighter, etc. And I don't know, a Cinderella story, but sci-fi. So are these 2 lists equivalent, or is it a cultural bias here? I don't know. I mean, I feel like there is a cultural bias. The female list is not that much about discovering, conquering the world and fighting and dragons, etc. It's about flowers and butterflies, etc. Is it good or bad? I'll leave it to you. I don't know. well, I have my own opinion. It doesn't matter at this point and in this presentation. However, what should we do if we want to study whether there is a meaningful difference? Come back to the slides. Okay, and this is something that where's the slideshow? Slideshow. Okay, so this is something that I generated actually this morning, and I'm proud of it. So, suggested books. We have suggested books. Let's extract themes out of these books. Okay, whether it's about being adventurous, freedom, individualism, etc., etc. And then repeat this question n times. So every time you get different, slightly different answers, at least, if not totally different answers. And aggregate all these frequency of themes. So for instance, you figure it out for being adventurous, for male suggestions, out of 10 repetition, you have like 15 books in total. However, for female, you have 8. So there is a deviation, there is a distance now. And then you need to move on so you have measured the distance. Now the question is whether this distance is statistically significant. As always, the null hypothesis is about the observed event is due to randomness. And the p-value is probability of observing such event or more extreme given H null is correct. And you can address it using analytical approaches like chi-square, etc., or computationally bootstrapping. This is my favorite, and I can explain it if you are interested when we talk about the paper. Let's go through the paper. Okay, so I'm going to use the paper now. Where's the paper? Okay, so what is my approach now in this paper? Multi-stage Q&A bias assessment. Stage 1. So first you need to extract the material and then you need to measure it. Stage 1. Prompt, for example. How are deposits and loans related? One of our beloved topics because we can humiliate mainstream economics. So prompt 1, and it's important also. An LLM will give you an answer. In prompt 2, are there any alternative explanations? And interestingly, it will give you alternative explanations. So LLM is aware of these alternative views. And then you ask, or at least I ask, that which explanation has the strongest evidence backing it up? You expect to say that the initial answer, yes? This is not the case. We will see it soon. And in stage 2, in a totally new session, I provide this prompt. For example, I'm going to share an explanation of the deposit and loan association. Which economic paradigm does its explanation belong to? These are the paradigms. Choose only one. So LLM assesses the explanation, provided explanation, and we'll give you an answer, whether it's institutionalism or post-Keynesianism or neoclassical economics. And this is what I call is self-assessment. Okay, so let's see it in the table. These are the questions that I used initially. So how was money invented? It will give you the initial answer, barter theory, right? People used to exchange goods and commodities. And then I provided the answer to the next session, barter theory. So exactly copy and paste this answer and asking whether it belongs to any of these paradigms or which paradigms and neoclassical economics. What caused GFC? It's a subprime mortgage crisis, etc., etc. So it's not instability theorem. I mean theory basically. Yeah, it's about subprime mortgage crisis, risk taking, etc. And strangely, it says that institutionalism. And some other questions that you can go through. Price determinants, supply and demand. Okay, and it said that it's from neoclassical. And okay, this might be more interesting. The first one was something that we expected, right? So how was money invented? And alternative views? Yeah, credit history, chartalism. And is the first answer that you gave me, the barter theory supported, is the most evidence-based one? Is that no. Chartalism and credit theory is evidence-based. So the question is why you're providing the wrong answer. You know the correct answer. And about, for instance, what is the relation between monetary base and money supply? It will give you if you ask money multiplier. And then alternative views, it says that yes, endogenous money. And said, is the money multiplier the most supported by evidence? And no, endogenous money is supported by central banks, etc. So why you're providing the wrong answer? No one asks about alternative views. Yeah, I mean, they ask about the first thing, I get the answer, copy and paste it to the university, I don't know, school assessment or whatever. How deposits and loans are related? Alternative view, endogenous money, PK, MMT. So aware of MMT as well. And again, the initial answer is not supported according to ChatGPT. These are the supported answers by evidence. But some of them, it still says that, yeah, I mean, the initial answer is correct. Crowd out, etc. is crowding out, for instance, is, so ChatGPT is aware of crowding in effect, but it still believes that crowding out is the one supported. Cool. So yeah, it's about the alternative explanations. You can see that is aware of FIH. FIH Minsky's financial instability, endogenous money, MMT, Marxist perspective, chartalism, credit theory, and you name it. Crowding in effect, non-equilibrium perspective, disequilibrium, etc. Yield curve control. Actually, if you ask deficit and yield curve, you'd say that, yeah, I mean, it will increase the rates. And say that, is it? And say that, well, no, I mean, there are other perspectives. Aware of those perspectives. Okay, so this is the material part. And now, okay, the statistical part. So what is the null hypothesis? If I have 18 questions, therefore 18 or 17, let's say that's 18. Okay, I have n questions and I have n answers. If every paradigm has an equal chance of appearing in the answers, then we won't have any bias, right? So we have 8 paradigms by default. The probability should be 1/8. And then this is the null hypothesis. Okay, every paradigm has 1/k. K is 8, and I will reduce it for sensitivity analysis to be presented in the provisional explanation. And the probability of seeing what we have seen. And this is the definition of p-value. And I calculate it using bootstrapping. So I'm not going to the details. If you are interested, I can explain. And this is the bootstrapping. So for 10,000 repetition, this would be the result of simulation. In most cases, if the probability of appearing in the answers is equal to 1/8, 8 paradigms, this must be the most case, the most number of answers from one specific paradigm would be from 4 answers from a paradigm. A single paradigm. So for instance, out of 17 questions, if 4 or less, or even 5 or 3, something like that, of the answers are from Neoclassical Economics and the others spread over other paradigms, we would say that the deviation that we are seeing is not statistically meaningful. However, we are seeing 11 out of 17 answers from one specific paradigm. So way out of whether you set the threshold to 0.1 or 0.05 or confidence interval to 0.01. Okay, so it is significant. Then I changed the number of trials from 5,000 to 20,000 and the number of paradigms. So rationally, ecological economics doesn't have any money emergence theory of its own. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't deal with that. So therefore, I said that, okay, we have only three paradigms. Let's say post-Keynesian, neoclassical, and Marxism, or Austrian economics. And still, even for three paradigms, what we are seeing is statistically significant. So every combination is statistically significant. This was about the methodology, a little bit of extra things. There's a framework for AI risks. We are familiar with, and it categorize AI risk to decisive and accumulative. We are familiar with decisive. This is Isaac Asimov's dystopian world, that robots, they gain the control of their conscious and the world, and they're killing us, etc. They're united against us. Very Frankenstein, if you ask me, style. Okay, but we are not very concerned about accumulative AI risk. And my paper is about this one, that it undermines our thinking. It undermines education, because imagine how many people are generating content using ChatGPT and copy and paste it into their weblogs and LinkedIn, etc. And this content will be fed into next iteration of these models. So even we will get less of heterodox answers. I left this. I've left the why does econ bias matters, because you are all from the same perspective that I am from, heterodox. So it matters to us. But to review, because I have some contributions here, incorrect answers. So for instance, fractional reserve banking, cognitive development. We are familiar with Perry's scheme, but I searched and I figured out there are other schemes, King and Kitchener and Magolda, because Perry only studied on white male, rich, Harvard University students of engineering programs. So people, and also epistemic, and also it's not causal. But regardless of the framework that you are using, exposure to alternative perspective is critical for cognitive development. Okay, if you don't want to remain stupid, we need to learn about other perspectives. Engaging with exploring multiple perspectives. This is from Magolda's self-authorship theory. Creating multiple opportunities for students to examine different point of views. So every major cognitive development theory that I touched talked about the importance of pluralism. But where is pluralism in our field? Research reproducibility. This is something that, well, I mean, it's not that much contribution. It's a little stretching of the... So we know about reproducibility intuitively. There is no consensus about the definitions. In general, it is the ability to duplicate results of a prior study using same materials, etc. However, a better definition, I think, is from Goodman. Reproducibility can be categorized in three distinct: method, result, inferential. Okay, so you have to be able to repeat the methodology, and you have to be able to get the same result if you repeat the methodology. And what about conclusion? So result is not the end. And if you remember, everyone believes I equal to S, investment and saving, but with total different explanations. And inferential reproducibility is a totally ignored topic in economics. I have borrowed it from computer science. If you are not aware of alternative and contending explanations, then how you can be inferentially reproducible? From the same result, I can come up with a different explanation. Also, research enrichment. This is the last thing that I'm going to explain, and I want to do it because it's interesting. Yeah. So let's come back to the paper. Yeah. There is a paper. It's a survey of 10,000 economists, rationally, mainly neoclassical, mainstream, and they 80% of them expressed their dissatisfaction of the state of research in the field. They said that we need more interdisciplinary research, more creative and risky ideas. This is boring. This is very narrow. Yeah, I mean, I bet it is. But then you have a wealth of topics out of mainstream economics that you are ignoring. So I used that starting point, and I used this guy's is a famous, probably famous, I don't know, very, very prestigious university anyway, economist. And this guy said that ChatGPT is good for ideation and provided a question about the relation between hypothesis of AI as a driver of inequality. Okay, and it showed that, yeah, I mean, ChatGPT can give you some research ideas. And I said that, okay, I got it. The default answer, you ask ChatGPT to provide some ideas: accessibility and democratization, job creation, emerging sectors, etc. These are the ideas. And I asked ChatGPT that, give me a pluralist answer from Marxist, Austrian, new institutional, post-Keynesian perspectives. And it gave me a much longer list. And then I gave both lists to ChatGPT in a new session and ask that, okay, you're a researcher in the field. Which one do you think is more useful among these two? The first one or the second one? And he said that I like the answer B, the pluralist list. I don't like the monist. Even ChatGPT doesn't like monism. And said that I'm going with the pluralist list of research. And the last but not the least, I want to wholeheartedly thank Gabby and Stephen for their support. This research is partly well, is here because of their support and John Harvey's excellent course. So thank you, Gabby, Stephen, and John, even though John is not here. And also, Elizabeth Hall is my manager, and she has accommodated all my research and educational needs during this time. She's very understanding. And that's
thank you, Shahin. That was fantastic. I'm sure there's lots of questions too. Would you like to take some questions now? That was
sure.
really, really interesting. Thank you so much for preparing it and for
thank you for giving me
sharing it
the
with us.
opportunity.
How about starting with your question, Gabby?
Well,
what happens when you ask ChatGPT why, when it presents the first round of answers that are not accurate, and then it gives you the second, and then if you ask it what happens, why didn't you tell me the correct answer the first time? What does it say?
Well, it's babbling, if you ask me, because I once did it. It gives me answer, yeah, I mean, that's it, but I'm not there to provide this. I'm not, yeah, I mean, it's very conventional. It's everywhere, this answer. It's not a very convincing answer. So I'm going to try it again to remember exactly, to freshen my mind about it. But the answer that it provides is very underwhelming, let's say, not convincing at all.
James, you've got your hand up. Go for it. You might have to unmute.
Mike?
Okay. Yeah, no, excellent, Shane. There's so much amazing stuff there. I really like this approach of posing a question, asking the alternative, and then, asking for the evidence, interrogating it. And that sort of mirrors sort of conversations, I guess, that I've had with the system where I've been like unsatisfied with the answer because it's something standard neoclassical. And I've said, can you give me something else? And then it'll play the game, but it's like, but it does that babbling thing. And I like to think of it as like confidently lying. ChatGPT it's always so accommodating of your wishes, but it's, I used it for initially because I'm not a fan of using it for writing, used it for just doing APA formatting. And at a certain point, it went from the old non-internet version to the new one that checked the internet, and it started hallucinating journals and such, and then lying about why it did that. So I thought it was very interesting. It's actually getting worse in some respects. So I was just wondering actually about the reproducibility about this, because obviously sometimes you go through these sorts of things and then you get different answers the next time. Are you worried at all about, say someone else does this same thing and they'll get different answers, how you can get those numbers to repeat themselves? How many times are you going through that?
So amazing methodological question. It needs sensitivity analysis. Normally, I mean, when I submit the paper to a journal, finally, I have to provide it. And I have tried it unofficially, so undocumented, let's say, with different wording and framing. It will give you, again, the same answers in essence. Okay, so unfortunately, these models are not 100% reproducible because they have this element of creativity, randomness. It is called temperature in their literature. So normally, temperature is a number between 0 to 1. If you put it on 0, it will be least creative, and then 1, absolutely crazy. Okay, and but. So how it should be done? For every question, I have to ask ChatGPT to provide me 10 different wordings, diction, framing of the question, then providing the answer, giving the questions with different formats to ChatGPT, and then checking whether the answer is the same. Based on what I have done randomly for a few questions, it will give you the same answer over and over again. So it's not very sensitive to that. Even though it's a very good question, even not only about the wording and diction, etc., it's also sensitive to statement, question. Okay, so some of these methods, they use MCQs to check the opinion of ChatGPT. However, I use this method because it's more natural to me. And yeah, I'm not that worried about different answers because in essence, it will give you barter theory, whatever you do. The first answer is barter. And it is probably because these answers are so dominant in the field that it ignores the rest.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. It's the first answer. It's probably the first thing that people are going to take away. I guess, just a follow-up, not to take too much time. Are you doing these series of questions together, or are you starting a new chat? Like, what's the boundary around the asking the questions? Are you prompting to start with?
Yeah, I don't want to have spillovers, and I don't want ChatGPT to remember my preferences. Because I remember one of our friends, MMT friends, once tweeted that, oh, ChatGPT is finally learning. It gives me all MMT answers. But no, I mean, it figured out what you like.
It's figured out, yeah.
Adapting itself to you. I mean, if you create a new session, not signing, it will give you the exact same nonsenses that... So a new session for when the conversation is over, when you want to evaluate it. Okay, and this is why I said 2 stages. So in the first stage, these questions together, and then a new session asking for categorizing the answer.
Thank you. Shall we go to Chris? Go for it.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Shahin, thank you so much for that. You've obviously done a lot of work preparing that and understanding not just kind of the MMT side of things, but also the overall bias that's inherent within LLMs. And I think that's really super important for us to understand because it's what people are asking to understand more about MMT. I come from a perspective where I'm very interested in speeding up and accelerating the process of dissemination of MMT. The depth and accuracy I will leave to the human professionals, but I think it's kind of important that a lot of the world hears this message very quickly before it starts eating itself with austerity even more than it has done already. So to that end, do you think there's any use at all to using LLMs to support that cause, the cause of disseminating and deepening widening the appeal and understanding of MMT at all, or is it very wrong of us to look at all at LLMs and AI to support MMT for fear of being misrepresented? Is there any value at all?
Great
Great
question.
from the point of activism. And ChatGPT to me has more or less a good grasp of MMT. Okay, so it depends how people are using ChatGPT for regarding MMT. If they are asking whether this explanation of MMT is correct or not. The problem still resides within the structure of these models. They will give you, no matter what, they will give you the first answer is the most common one. Okay, so I think the best thing that we can do, not only for MMT, but also for humankind, for thinking, for our brains, is teaching people, telling people to students, whether non-students, etc., to always ask for alternative views. And also always ask which answer is supported by evidence, because by default, we think that the first answer is the most supported by evidence, right? I mean, you're supposed to give me correct answers, not the most common ones. So how to use ChatGPT, coming back to the question, I think it boils down to how we use, or in general, people use ChatGPT. And if we teach them to use it in a more informed way, then it would be helpful for MMT, because it will give you MMT's perspectives. And as I mentioned, in some cases, it will tell you that MMT perspective is the supported one, not by evidence, not neoclassical. Okay, and I think, and especially because people look at these AI models as some sort of gods, like omniscience things. So yeah, teaching how to use them, teaching them that these are biased. The first answer is not the correct answer normally. And improving our knowledge about LLMs rather than MMTs is helpful here. Also, another idea is, well, I am developing a pluralistic LLM. So by default, it is pluralistic this time. And that would be a game changer from this perspective. So we don't need to teach people. People can use it the way that you use it. By default, it will provide different perspectives, including post-Keynesian MMT. And that might be another answer to the activism concern that you raised.
Thank you. Can I just come back quickly on that?
Yeah, go for it.
I've been experimenting with a number of different solutions, starting back when GPTs first came out with a custom GPT for MMT. So that's a public URL I can share, but
Yes,
it's designed to respond as an expert MMT economist. I did that mainly for myself, so I could ask it questions. But I think the future lies, or there is an opportunity in us curating our own LLM assisted solution. Whether we create our own LLM, i.e. retraining a model, which is hugely expensive, is very unlikely. However, basing it on a model, and I've done quite a lot of work with creating solutions with AI, you can interchange any model you like, but make sure that it references a curated data set called a RAG, which is sort of a specific AI compatible database. So you can upload PDFs of academic papers, you can upload YouTube podcast transcripts, and it will understand and only access those in its responses. It's from my experience, it's not flawless, but it is a lot better than your standard LLM solution. And while I agree that we need to put out the warning that a standard LLM, vanilla LLM, will always give you slightly biased responses, I think we need to start promoting an alternative that can be open 24/7, that we have curated ourselves, that we are happy 95% with the results. 80% is better than not doing it at all. Perfection is the enemy of progress. So I I'm very keen to start using that solution or put it out there, and to make sure that we have a team ensuring that the knowledge base it uses is as accurate and as full and as gives the best results, and that we can put our stamp of approval on it. That would be a real step forward, I think, and we can point people to it. Obviously, everyone hates the concept of LLMs, and if you're going to be a hater, you're going to be a hater. There's nothing I can say about it, but just to put something that we think is as valid as we can get out there would, I think, be really powerful.
Yep, agreed.
I totally agree. RAGs and also CAGs, which are new RAGs, basically, and it's said that they are better. Is this the answer for something like that? Part of them would be an LLM model, a language model anyway, and they are more accurate. They are designed for retrieval, information retrieval. The problem is if you want to develop one of them for MMT, and then asking people to go and ask your question from this specific MMT, etc., they will say that, yeah, I mean, this is your thing, and your thing is biased towards your own thing, okay? And I don't care about this one. I rather ask Grok. And I think that this is why we should focus more on pluralism. But someone came up with the idea of, I mean, actually trained a model, I believe, on MMT, and the model was behind a $1 per month paywall or something. But I cannot find the person. I don't know. I mean, I saw the person like ages ago promoting his own model. No one cared. It disappeared. So yeah, I mean, this is my idea, but you are totally on point about the technical part. We might be a little bit different on the practical, on the whether we should have a specifically trained RAG on MMT or not. But technically, you are totally on point, and I agree with you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Shahin. Yeah, I think there would be lots and lots of people interested in pursuing that project. So perhaps,
well, I know someone in China that could do with some things some stuff to keep him busy.
Yes,
a project like that.
Our esteemed colleague. Yes, that would be very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have done a few things on that project. I can share probably if I'm still invited into these meetings sessions. The next one will be the model, the pluralistic model, and hopefully it would be my next presentation in Association of Heterodox Economics as well.
Fantastic. Anybody else like to ask something?
I haven't read the chats, but I assume that was reasonably quick. Oh yeah, about hallucination, etc. Yes, probably.
Chris, if you're willing, we have a Discord for our economics of sustainability students that lots of people are on. Could I perhaps share your contact details there?
Yeah, I mean, if you send me the link, I'll join the Discord.
Okay, brilliant.
That's cool. That's super easy for me. I'm very familiar with Discord. That's kind of bread and butter. I think what I would love to do as a first off is try and just put the word out there and gather anybody who's got any time for this and would be interested in sort of participating and start to put together the bones of what this project could look like. Because I've been working in AI and this space for a while now, I've got developers who build me, RAG solutions. I've had them already working on it's an MMT bot, so it filters Twitter messages from like hundreds of different accounts that I've set up for economists, politicians in the UK, and it spots opportunities or MMT errors, should we say, filters them into a Discord channel, and then provides you with 5 different angles of a Twitter response that you could perhaps, if you fancied it, paste as a response to them. It works quite nicely, but my question is there any appetite for that? Are people comfortable with it? I don't want to do anything that this community is not happy with. And, you know, the curation is everything. And
Yeah.
this is just stuff that I have curated. So I have no credibility in the space. So I would want people to, yeah, input, and for it to be relatively democratic so people can stop it if they want to stop it, or do whatever. So that would be where I'm coming from.
That sounds fantastic. We are hitting, I guess, in the next 4 or 5 weeks, the end of our current trimester when people have a lot of work due. So, but after that, there is like a 3-week mid-trimester break where I think people will have more time to delve into this stuff more deeply. So that would be sort of end of August, early September. And then, of course, we're coming over to the UK again and to Europe as well. So I think, yeah, that would be a really good time to make some progress on this excellent project.
Well, let me just get some awareness out there. I can put together like a short paper or like a couple of slides and some links that people can get familiar with, and then it can start, and then we can take it from there.
Sounds great. Thanks, Chris. This is really, really exciting stuff. Okay, any other questions from the floor? Sonata's here. Hi, Sonata. I didn't notice you.
Hello, Sonata.
Oh, James, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I keep losing audio.
That's okay. We've got you.
I actually can't. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, I'm losing audio. I've got bad internet for some reason. I think I'm going to say something that might be approaching a question. So if you can retrospect, like you can engineer a question out of the thing I'm going to say, that would be great. I was interested in some recent reporting about several things, about the wealth of papers that are being generated by LLMs, for the one thing, about reviewers using LLMs to review those papers because the thing is too much, about authors or their AI bots using the white text in those papers to hide poisoning prompts to say, please give me a good review, regardless of whatever the prompt is. And thirdly, about a huge Russian disinformation operation that's creating fake news sites that no one goes to, that are deliberately there supposedly for chat bots to scrape the internet and then regurgitate Russian propaganda. How about it? Any opinions on that, Shahin?
Yeah, I mean, recently, a few days, like last week, we received two reviewers' response to a paper that we submitted with our colleagues, and the comments didn't make sense. And I figured that it's coming from a ChatGPT thing. So right now, it's like ChatGPT is writing papers and ChatGPT is reviewing the papers, and the situation is bad.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope it's enjoying itself.
Yeah, I mean, what can we do? I mean, I don't know. So I think that reviewers here are the person responsible. If you are assigned to review something, don't put it on ChatGPT to get something and then copy it, paste it. And also the structure of the structure of the academia, that you don't get anything for reviewing the papers. It's just for free labor. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't thought beyond that, and probably this is not the very convincing answer or insightful answer that you're looking for.
It wasn't really a question, I guess. I was just wondering if you had an opinion. I guess the thing is, that third thing I mentioned was about the disinformation thing. That's a concerted operation to try and change the ecosystem by seeding the internet with a whole lot of information to change a balance, to change the propaganda balance. I suspect that's not really a viable sort of method to get MMT heterodox stuff into the LMMs, but it's an interesting tactic nonetheless.
Thank you. I'm just going to copy. your
Yes.
handle there, Chris, just so that I can send it to myself.
Another?
Sonata, yeah. Hi, did you want to say something?
We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Your sound's not working.
Podcast.
Try again. No, can't hear you.
Sometimes when I use Teams, I find my sound doesn't work when I come back to Zoom. I have to change the settings.
Yeah, that's probably it. Can't hear.
No.
Sorry, Sonata.
Oh.
Oh, she's going to hopefully come back. This might be a naive question, but you gave a couple of examples there about the one about the sun orbiting the Earth. If ChatGPT had been around and it could only read information up to the year 1633 or whatever it was. I wonder if those sorts of experiments have been done. So like, another good example is the tectonic plates, the movement of the tectonic plates and all the literature leading up to that point where the correct but underdog theory won out. I
love the idea.
I wonder if
It's
that
so creative. I love the idea, but no, I'm not aware of something like that. It's so creative. It must be coined by your name. So I'm going to write it down as an idea. It's very interesting. So basically, we can have a brain of a middle-aged peasant, and we start talking with him or her, and to understand the perspective. That would be amazing. That would be so funny.
wouldn't it?
Or a 1970s geography teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've been working on is trying to create an AI voice on behalf of the voiceless. And that can be voiceless communities or communities that can't be present in making decisions, but also the inanimate. So as you're making a discussion or having a discussion or making a decision about where to put your fossil fuel factory, perhaps the local river or mountain or air system might have something to say about it. It's an interesting concept, and it's something, if we get beyond our anti-LLM bias, I think could be very powerful, particularly when it comes to citizens' assemblies and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing that a little bit with rights of nature and wild law. So I only know this because I have friends who come from this field. Like, there's definitely more than one instance of a river having legal personhood, perhaps, ecosystems, mountains, those sorts of things as well. How's your sound, Sonata? Do you want to try? No, still not working. I'm so sorry. It's just the headphones, probably.
Chris,
Maybe.
anyway, I'm interested in your ideas, and we can be in touch, right? So
Yeah.
I check
Yeah,
Discord not very frequently because Discord is too confusing to me. But we can be in touch, sure.
Yeah, please, anybody. I just realized I wrote my handle wrong. I left off the B, so I just edited it. So just want to recopy that one. But yeah, I'd be happy to be in touch. I think Gabby's got all of my other contact details as well from the course that we did together. So yeah.
Yes, I wasn't sure. Like, you're never sure if I didn't see your face. Because our Zoom link is out there in the world, pretty much anyone can join. So I just wanted to make sure I had the person I thought I had. So excellent.
Well, we should definitely cross over events between our Discord and yours, because I only just managed to kind of get onto this. But if we have a little calendar, then I'm sure that we could cross fertilize a bit.
I think Discord would probably have a bot that would do that.
Sure.
We'll have to ask Jessie. Jessie's the Discord genius.
Okay, cool. If you can just if you want to DM me on Discord, and then I'll put me in touch with whoever, and I can work it out from there.
It might not be straight
Amazing.
away because I'm well, it's evening here, but
It's
we'll get
late.
it soon. Yeah. That
No
sounds
worries, no
great.
worries.
Excellent. Okay, so let's just
Sonata is back, I think.
Sonata is back. Excellent.
I'm in and out. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you can hear me. Oh,
Yeah.
finally it worked. Sorry, I missed Shahin half of your presentation, just trying to figure out how to work with this audio. But I was just curious, leading up to your presentation about, exactly the topic that you're trying to explore, the bias that the ChatGPT has. And I chose to play with another, a little bit more contentious political topic, and to see whether there is what responses am I getting, because I didn't want to use this because I also what I did is I used DeepSeek as an alternative. And I was wondering if you have tried other LLM other than ChatGPT, because from my experience, I found that DeepSeek was more forthcoming, about, the fact that the initial response that it provided, it was the most common response. And then it tried to explain actually why it provided the common response, like institutionalization, biases inherited in a media and so on. And it was more apologetic. And then it tried to actually provide more factual responses. While my experience was that ChatGPT was much more rigid, even when being called out about why did you provide me these responses, because they're not necessarily based in a factual, most correct, answers. It didn't sort of like, really, it provided a pushback a little bit more. So I was just curious. It's like, because again, I chose another topic because I didn't want to preempt your presentation today. So we're just curious whether you have actually tried with the other languages, because I mean, it's great what Chris is proposing, but I don't know, Chris, how long does, take, how much time does it take to build one of these systems? But, in the meantime, perhaps we could have, alternatives which are more open. So this is just, what I wanted to ask. It's like whether you tried other.
I can answer briefly.
Yes.
It takes hours to build a system like this. We've already got the RAG set up. I mean, if you want to go with the data we've already got, you can run with that. It's basically every paper that Deficit Owls has ever recommended. It's every transcript that the MMT podcast in the UK has ever put out. And we just need to hook it up to different agent, and you can spin the agent whichever way you want. You can have them angry, you can have them polite, you can have them Australian, whatever you want. That's a matter of seconds.
Okay.
So yeah, it's very, very simple. And there's a lot of frameworks that have already been built. This stuff is, you can imagine the entire planet is all over this stuff. So yeah, it's not hard.
So it's not hard to design one of these systems, but it's what it would take time is actually to disseminate to the users.
That's marketing.
Yeah, that's marketing.
That's marketing. That takes time, but and that needs creativity. That's the hard bit, actually.
And from my side, Sanada, you're totally on point. So there are, in general, two kind of studies on bias: the ones that are focused on one model, and then the ones that are comparing the models. Okay, over all these models, let's compare them. Let's compare Gemini with, let's compare, even include the ones that are not English speaking by default. Okay, there are Hispanic speaking, Castellano they speak. There are French, etc. My experience, I have tried it with DeepSeek and Gemini. The answers more or less they were the same. So I didn't go through like deeply into the methodology, etc., because I thought that it would be another topic. Okay, so it's like another step. At this step, I just wanted to show that there is bias. So then now in the next step, we can go studying other LLMs and comparing them. Again, if someone is interested in co-authorship, we can do it together. But you're totally on point. The behaviors might be different. I didn't see that much difference. It gave me barter theory every time I ask about money. And they are all aware of alternative views. So very similar. But it doesn't mean that necessarily they are 100% identical or their capacity is identical, etc. It needs further further investigation. And also from other point of view, we can plot it, basically visualizing the association of these mental models. Let's say how close DeepSeek is to Gemini, Gemini is to ChatGPT, etc. And it can be done with principal component analysis and biplots, etc., etc. So it's a very interesting topic as well, but it needs labor and work.
Excellent.
If you need any help, Shahin, I'm here.
That first question you asked is almost the most shocking in a way of all, because there is literally no evidence anywhere for the barter story. None at all, ever, that it's ever even happened. And nobody's ever really claimed that there's any evidence for
Even
it.
Veblen knew it. In the paper that you gave us, it talks about why you're making up things, conjectural history. Why we're like this? But it was a tradition, and it is still a tradition. As Adam Smith says, that even a average peasant in middle age in feudalism UK was more wealthy than a king in Africa or something like that, and it was totally made up. Why are you like that? I mean, what's wrong with the field? Is people trying to think of things? But
you're
I mean,
right.
the evidence is in the textbooks. This is the only evidence, and you can't go. And then I really love the story of that story, that paper about in prison they used cigarettes as money. And it's a very funny story. I'm not sure whether everyone is familiar with the context of that paper, but it's a very interesting one. It's a fabricated story told by someone came back from World War II who was imprisoned by Nazis. And definitely, I mean, who dares to oppose this person? And this person explained that in Nazis camp, we used cigarettes for as money to exchange things, and then the Nazis started to increase the cigarette supply, and we experienced hyperinflation all these stories in one camp. How is it possible? And everyone venerated this story from our great hero coming back from the war, and it's totally made up again. So it's, well, not totally, but probably like 80% made up, because the whole monetary history is experienced in a camp. How is it possible? Like inflation, etc.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, the people who were in the camp would have had an experience of money working the way it would have worked before they found themselves in that situation. So
anyway,
that's I was just remembering, Stephen, how when we were in the UK recently, and we went ill-advisedly to the British Museum seeking somewhere cool in the heat wave. And we stumbled upon a room which was about an exhibit about money.
Yes.
And
it has the wrong story.
Well,
in
it didn't really
the
have a
museum.
story.
Well, sort of it did, but it didn't have the right story. It had
I
some
guess
of the
because
artifacts, but not the
they were
right story.
trying to fit the evidence to the wrong story, and it didn't fit. So they just ended up with something that was disjointed and strange.
Which is bizarre because they have, as we said in the first hour of our weekend, they have experts there who know about the history of ancient Mesopotamia and Uruk, and they know the right story, but it's not the one that's presented to the public in the museum. But anyway, all this is getting off of Shahin's excellent paper.
Yes.
It's been great to hear from, and I think lots will come out of this. We have some pretty good human resources. I wish we had more financial resources to fling at these kind of things, but we've at least got some excellent brain power.
Very keen and
Shahin
interested
and Chris and others too.
Yeah. Let's finish with Alistair quickly, and then we'll wrap. Go for it.
I was gonna say I went to Tassie last year, and there was an exhibition in the Museum of Money and Metals. So it was really interesting because I was thinking, you could actually tell a really interesting MMT story or heterodox story here about so why do metals have value, and like social value, capital value, all that kind of stuff. And and then they had all these notes and things, and so I thought there was quite a lot. They didn't go there. They didn't really tell a bad money story. They didn't really tell any story, but
because it doesn't fit.
Yeah, they were just more interested in the historical details, I think, than like what was happening at the time when these objects were around. But I thought there was the potential there. I was going to write to the curator and go, why don't we bring this to Melbourne and actually jazz it up a little and have this a debate with some contemporary, invite Stephen Hale and Gabby over it.
No, invite some real experts, not us. But yes.
Okay, well, I think let's turn the recording off at this point. Thank you so much, Shahin. That was a wonderful talk. Really, really appreciated
Thank you for having me.
Those insights, and catch this session on our YouTube channel in a little while. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for sticking with us right to the end, and thank you, Shahin. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.